In this Diablo 4 video, I will be going over my S-tier Bone Spear Necromancer. In the current patch of Diablo 4, this is by far the best Necromancer build available, and it will take you easily into the late in-game, and should you choose to face off against Uber Lilith, this build absolutely can do it. Keep in mind we are partnered with DiabloBuilds.com, and we will have a link in the description fully detailing the build. DiabloBuilds.com have, in my opinion, the most comprehensive build calculator and character builder on the market, so that's why I really like it. But again, link in the description to the build. Now, the way to play the build is actually pretty simple. You cast Bone Spear and destroy all targets in your path with very little effort. Once a body is spawned, cast Corpse Tendril to group enemies and let the spears fly once again. Should you get low on essence, you can cast Corpse Explosion and restore it, and that's pretty much all you need to do. The build is straightforward and extremely powerful, and I believe it is top 5 builds in the entire game. Alright, we are on the gear section of this video, so let's dive right on into it and I'm going to explain to you how every piece works. So starting off with the helmet, we go with Deathless Visage. Now this one is actually a pretty good unique. Usually there's always a wasted stat on the unique in my opinion, except for on Harley Quinn mask of course. But this one is super good. It has armor, which is valuable, physical damage, which that's all we do, critical strike damage, which is a multiplier, with bone skills, which is all we do, and then it has maximum essence, which actually is really synergistic to the build, and then of course the actual passive, which leaves behind an echo as it travels and explodes, dealing 1,000 damage. This can scale obviously, and that's really good for wave clear. So honestly, this is probably in my opinion one of the best helmets in the game for like a build. Very good synergy, and we put a ruby of course for more life because we value life and not dying. Next, we're getting the chest with Disobedience on it. This one has life on it. It has fizz damage, which we do. And then we have damage reduction from close enemies. This one's actually not terrible because we're range, and if anything gets close to us, that's usually when we're in danger, and this is when it kicks in, so it's actually really good. And then we have Fortified Generation. That's not the best stat, but Fort is still decent for the build because we want to be tanky, and we're actually relatively tanky. Then we have a max roll Disobedience. Disobedience is absolutely amazing. It gives a lot of armor, and the way Diablo works, armor is more beneficial than a lot of other stats. I would argue it's better than damage reduction and resistance combined. It's really weighed positively, so I would highly recommend like putting Disobedience on something if you can. You do have Corpse Tendril. You have Corpse Explosion that does damage over time. A lot of your skills, Splinter, Bone Wall, like Bone Storm, a lot of that does damage over time. It actually keeps it up pretty high, so really good synergy. We do go to the hands, and we have attack speed, 4 ranks to Bone Spear, crit strike chance, and lucky hit. Lucky hit's decent because we have some passives on the tree on the gear that's actually usable. It's not the best. There's probably other better things, but I like it. It works. And then we put, I believe like this is like the second or third most important aspect on the gear. And this basically, whenever you cast Corpse Tendril, this will give you up to 20% base crit strike chance. There is no other condition outside of just casting it. That's all you need to do. So it's actually really good. And then if they do get hit by the Corpse Tendril, they will take more crit damage. Just remember this Corpse Tendril actually scales the cooldown, so whenever you level it up, it does really well, and that's why we're actually going to level it up. So pretty good, very good synergy, really good crit. For our legs, you can go Temerity if you value it, because of the barrier is pretty decent, but I really like having life, so I'm using these pantses. They have life, they have physical damage over time reduction, damage reduction while doing shadow damage over time, which is super easy. Plus 3 ranks to Corpse Explosion. Corpse Explosion is not like super big to the build, but it's okay damage. And then we get armor, of course, for more armor. I actually have a better pair of pants, but I need a better barrier. So this is what we're using for now. I use barrier here, really good. I'm only ever in danger around elites, so when I'm hitting them, I get the barrier, it's fine. And then of course rubies. For our feet, you could use other feet. This one's okay. I like it because of the move speed, because I'm a necromancer, we're slow as hell, and then whenever you evade you get some move speed, so it's pretty good. The cold resistance is super wasted. The slow duration is okay. so it helps you stay alive, and the crowd control duration is okay as well. The main reason we're using this is for the move speed, and then because the chill is actually a control effect, it procs our primary resource gain when you CC an enemy from this aspect, so it's actually really good synergy. But you can use other stuff. I don't really care too much about the boots, they're okay. For now, this is our current sword, and the biggest problem with this sword right now is our aspect, but we'll get into it. We have a max roll, near max roll vulnerable, near max roll crit strike damage, and then a near max roll crit strike damage with bone skills. This is actually ideal in my opinion. The core skill damage is actually relatively low, and I would argue you can just go int here and it'll be maybe better. But this is what we have, and it's pretty good. We do need to re-roll this aspect though. That's the biggest thing. This is very core to the build and really big. I have gotten 2 min rolls on this sadly, but we want to re-roll this because this gives a ton of damage whenever you hit people with bone charge with the bone spear. You get so much extra bonus damage. It's really big, so highly recommend you hold on to this if you see it. And then we put 2 emeralds in here for the crit strike damage to vulnerable enemies, because everyone's always vulnerable at all times with bone spear, so really good. Alright, on to the necklace, and then we have again more damage reduction anytime anything's affected by shadows or whatever. That one's pretty easy to get with our corpse explosion, like I said earlier. Ideally we want something different like life or something else on that second passive, but it is what it is. It's what we got. The bone skill damage is really good, and then we got +3 ranks to compound fracture. Compound fracture is this one, and it basically gives you, after critting 10 times with bone skills, your bone skills deal 30% increase damage for 5 seconds. Pretty good synergy, pretty decent. But yeah, ideally we want to do something better on that second one. The most important thing about this though is the ossified essence keystone passive also increased the crit strike damage of your bone skills by 1% per essence above 50 up to 60%. I have a near max roll on that, so scaling your essence is actually pretty decent. That's why I love the visage. It's really good synergy with it. But ideally though, just keep in mind, I would highly recommend putting this on your neck, not put it on the other pieces, because this is a pretty decent damage boost for your neck. On my rings, again, crit strike chance, we got Vaughn damage, got some life. We're still trying to roll like some type of crit strike damage or crit strike with bone skills on that second one. Now, while all that's good, the most important thing to keep in mind is the aspect, and this is up to a 10% chance to gain 40 essence when hitting a vulnerable enemy with bone skills. They're always vulnerable, we're always hitting them with bone skills, and so this is ideal in my opinion. There's other ones, but I think this one's best. Then on to my best piece of gear, I think, and this is my ring. It has essence generation that could be more increased essence. Ideally, I think that's better for, especially for like super late, but this will work too. We have a macro crit strike chance, we have a near macro Vaughn damage, and then we have a crit strike damage as well, which is really good synergy, really good stats, pretty much everything you need. And then we have restore 4 of your primary essence when enemies are crowd controlled. Again, you're going to be putting ice on them all the time, so it's going to be pretty good. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the character. Let's go over the Book of the Dead real quick, and then we'll go into the abilities. Book of the Dead, for our skirmishers or our like skeletal warriors, we go with the crit strike, no surprise there. For the mages, we go with the Vaughn damage. And then for the golem, we go with the crit strike damage, since that's how we're scaling it. So very simple to the point. And just to show you guys a little bit of our statisticals, we have almost 40% crit strike chance. Really good. The class is really good at crit, so really nice. But yeah, crit strike damage, this is where we're at now. 7k HP, 6k armor without disobedience, so you have some really good defense and offense right now, and I'm only 75, so imagine when you get higher. Anyway, now before we head over to the passives, I did want to show you my Paragon Board. I only want to show you one of them because that's, in my opinion, the only one that really matters, and it's just the second one. But I'll just show you my pathing there. We take the damage and the life. This one's worthless in my opinion because it has resistance and therefore it has no value to me. We take the armor here and the int. We take the damage and int, and then we put the blood orb fortify one, blood drinker. Pretty good. It helps with fortify uptime, and that's going to be your primary defense is fortify and DR. So anyway, we're going to this tree, and this one is called, what is this tree called? How do you see the tree? Diablo, give me fucking UI stuff. Anyway, it's called Bone Graft. So this is the Bone Graft tree, and this is how we're pathing it. We take the Entomb and we take the Bone Graft because it's actually really decent damage. Take all the crit stuff here. Then we go to here, Calcified. This one gives more bone damage and crit strike with bone skills. And then we get over here. This is arguably the most important part of the tree. This is probably the most important part of the entire Paragon board. Is these few nodes here, which is kind of insane if you think about it. But anyway, Reinvigorate. This gives you basically more essence, which gives you a lot of damage, and then essence on kill, which gives you more essence sustain. Whenever you're doing any form of like dungeon grinding, nightmare dungeons, whatever, that's just super valuable. And yeah, highly recommend you pick this up. This is mandatory, and this is the most important part of the entire Paragon board in my opinion. We're going to cover the willpower later, eventually. Over here we have a lot of life. I like life notes, keeps me alive. This tree is actually pretty insane. I don't know, I've not seen a tree as good as this one. Like, it has pretty much everything that you need for a character, except for like one passive that has like resistance that you don't get. Anyway, over here, more bone skill damage, and then we have the long damage exploit. There's probably other ones. This is what I use, but this is fine. Really, again, the only thing that's really important in my opinion is the essence down here. But man, look at this tree. Isn't this tree just so broken? Crit scaling, crit chance, life, resource gen, resource sustain. Pretty insane tree. Anyway, we're gonna go to the next part of the video, which is basically the passive. But holy, this tree is crazy. Alright, we are now on the build calculator. Just remember, I am partnered with Diablo builds. This is, in my opinion, the best build calculator on the market, but just keep in mind that I will have a link in the description directly tied to this so that you can actually follow it step by step. And yeah, this is really good. So let's get started. We have Bone Splinter, Initiates Bone Splinter, as well as, oh actually that's something different, Enhanced Bone Splinters, and this one's Initiate Bone Splinters. And the purpose of this is going to give you basically crit strike early. I mean, you can use it later too, but crit strike, when you fight bosses, you may actually have to use this skill anyway, so this is probably going to be here for a while. You're going to probably use this for a very long time. We get Unliving Energy. This is going to give you maximum essence, which is good for the build because you get a lot of damage from having a lot of essence. And then Imperfectly Balanced, this is going to give you more damage, but it's going to cost you a little bit more essence to do so. We're going to get Heat Flesh. You have a lot of lucky hit stuff on your gear. Not a lot, you have some, I guess. And then you have, you want Corpse Sustain anyway, so this is good. We want Bone Spear, maxing this out. This is our bread and butter. Enhanced Bone Spear for the breaking, and then Supernatural Bone Spear for the vulnerable. 3-second vulnerable guaranteed is very broken in my opinion, so super good. Alright, Blood Mist, this is your mandatory unstoppable skill. We're taking Enhanced Blood Mist, of course, and then Dreadful Bone Mist. This is going to give you some Fortify. Now, of course, you can go Ghastly Blood Mist if you want some more Corpse Sustain. This is kind of optional. I use Dreadful, but bosses, this may be good for the corpses. Anyway, Grim Harvest, we're going to do this because it helps us consume corpses and then generate essence. This is decent for sustain. There's always going to be a lot of corpses, so it's really good. Corpse Explosion is next, and we're going to basically just give everything 1 point, but most importantly we want Blighted Corpse Explosion. This is going to do the shadow damage over time and set up a lot of your passives and gear stuff that has like shadow damage over time requirements, so really good. And again, just 1 point in all this. We're not doing it for damage, we're doing it for like utility. We want Death Reach. You deal increased damage to distance enemies. You don't have to take it if you don't want it, but I take it, but whatever. Corpse Tendril is our next set of stuff we're getting, and this one is max worthy in my opinion. We're maxing it not for damage, but purely for the cooldown because it scales to cooldown. Then we get Enhanced Corpse Sigil, and then we want Blighted Corpse Sigil because it drops a Blood Orb. It has a pretty decent chance to drop it, and that's going to help you with Sustain for your Fortify. Serration, we're maxing Serration. We're getting Compound Fracture. This is going to be 6 if you have my setup. And then we want Evolution. I think that's how you say that word. What the hell is that? Anyway, we're going to take that, and it's good for vuln enemies. Super synergy. We take Bone Storm, Prime Bone Storm, and Supreme Bone Storm. And then, yeah, Standalone. Memento Moria, we want that. And then we want Ossified Essence. And that's pretty much the build. The character section, I'm gonna have this filled out for you guys. It'll be in the description, obviously, with the build. So whenever you go to the website, it'll be filled out. But I'm not gonna do it in this video because we already covered it. All right, there you have it, guys. That is it for my S-tier Bone Spear build. This is pretty much best in slot, in my opinion, as far as what the Necromancer is capable of doing in the current patch of Diablo 4. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to leave them down below. I generally respond to most questions unless it gets like too overwhelming. But yeah, don't forget to like as well as subscribe to the channel and support a small creator. And I will see you guys in the next video very soon. Later.